What are the challenges of IP? It's not been an easy path. There's obviously some challenges that we have as we start to embark down that IP path. Okay. So, first is essentially the maturity of the standards. It's great we've got a standard. It's great that we've now all come behind that standard. We have a starting point, but the standards are at the beginning step, right? We know that there's still things that we need to finalize over here. Okay? This is a good starting point, ISO 4 and ISO 5. Well, it's probably going to get adjusted as we start deploying more and more systems. Okay? That's a challenge. It's going to be, when do I wait for everything to be fully vetted before I make that transition? Or I take a little bit of a risk and understand that if I was to deploy something 2110 based, I'm still going to be kind of working my way through some challenges. Right? So there's acknowledgement that, yes, we have a standard. We're at the beginning of that cycle, just like when we first had the standard for HDSDI, there were some initial pains, but it will get resolved. So you have to understand that and acknowledge that that's going to be a big challenge at this point. 6 months from now, probably not the challenge that we're concerned about. Okay? The complexity. The system complexity is not going to get less, it's going to be more complex. Right? That's just a fact. Think about it. We said, for every source coming in, you now have to concern yourself with at least 6 multicast addresses per source. Now multiply that with the number of potential source and destinations you have. Now if you have a networking architecture, we have a bunch of leaf and spine devices. Factor in PTP, how do I distribute PTP? Right? It's not going to be an easy exercise. It's going to get complex. So therefore, it's imperative that we have tools that help us challenge and help resolve some of that complexity. It starts off with control system, right? So the tools that we showed were direct results of us rolling up the system and realizing, hey, we need more visibility. The broadcast engineer needs more visibility into some of these features. So what you saw were a correlation or accumulation of systems we deployed and feedback we got from our customers to add all those tools, the visibility, the source path, the ability to search quickly, okay? So we're trying to address that with the tools we get within the control system. The other element that we've added is something called Insight. And what Insight is that as we were troubleshooting things like ESPN or NBC, the sheer volume of things that was going on at once was almost too much to handle by doing some sort of manual kind of collection of logs and trying to line things up. So we needed a better tool. So we looked out to the IT space and saw what was happening in terms of these big data analytics. And we created something called Insight. And essentially what Insight is, it's a data collection agent. It's collecting data in real time from every device in the facility. Okay, it's collecting it through either event logs, unstructured data, SNMP, syslogs, especially IP interfaces. It's constantly collecting data in real time. And that becomes then, that data becomes available to various other elements. I can have dashboards that can give me real-time performance numbers, right? So think about this as the real-time speedometer indicator you have in your car, right? So I can tell you how my system is performing at that moment. I can then use that data to help me troubleshoot. Okay, let's say I had an event where I lost a route. A phantom route happens. Okay, I can go back in time, extract the data from all the devices at that time, and quickly correlate what happened. It identifies that cost because I have all that information available to me. Right, so I can rewind the system to see what the state of the system was based on the data I've collected. I can also become very proactive. I can start looking at utilization trends. So how many do I need to add more processing here? Because we're seeing a high utilization of certain resources. I can also start predicting potential failures. So when a system is up and running, we can establish a baseline. This is the normal state of my system. I expect it to be operating at this state 99% of the time. Okay. When we start to see anomalies, We can feed that. This will start taking the data and start detecting anomalies. That intelligence can then be sent back to either your user reports or anything else to say, hey, by the way, there's some problems. We're starting to see some spikes here, right? An example would be if I had a link between here and Melbourne, and it's a 1 gig pipe that I've leased, and I know that I only want to send at this point 500 megabits per second between those sites. That's my normal baseline. When I start to see spikes, 650, 700 megabits per second, I want to know, and this will indicate to you, by the way, we've seen anomalies to your normal state. You may want to look at this. Is it a rogue feed? Is it somebody doing something different? Is it an indication that we may need to get more bandwidth? Right? That's the kind of information, because we're collecting this information in real time. We primarily use this when we're deploying systems today as a very useful troubleshooting tool. It comes with every system we deliver, because it's a very powerful element. It's one of those things where we need to collect all this information. It was imperative for us to troubleshoot to ensure we commission the system right, but it became essential to for all of our customers to identify faults as well. So when we look at what we have done traditionally, if I use my VisLink, which is our NMS network management system, it's typically based on SNMP. Okay, it's going to collect faults, exception alarms, errors, and basically utilize that information to identify what the problem is. Okay, whereas now with Insight, I've got all this operational machine data that's coming in real time, in addition to my fault, exception, and errors. So I have a sheer amount of more information that I now can correlate to identify a potential problem and look at and resolve. Okay. And that's a kind of, again, based on the experience we had with learning, we realized these tools become essential in order to troubleshoot these more complicated, more complex systems. And here's an example of just sort of some of the other front end here. Here's that view screen I saw earlier, and here's an SNMP alarm, and again, the ability to drill in and say, hey, we have an alarm here, go to Insight, pull the data that's related to this alarm, and help me correlate what causes it. One of the big things here, there is a misnomer at this point that IP is cheaper. Okay, by going to IP, I'm going to save a lot of money today. Not true. Okay, we are slowly getting to that point as more and more technology rolls out, more and more products become. Yes, the price point's going to fall. However, today, if I'm building a facility, we look at it, and I would say probably 1,000 by 1,000 is that part which makes sense to go to IP because it's a cost savings, even with the gateways, to go to IP than it is to stay with SDI. Okay. That number is slowly sliding down. This time last year, I think it would have been 1,500 by 1,500. We're down by 1,000 by 1,000. 6 months from now, we could be at 700 by 700 as that sort of tipping point to go to IP, right, where it becomes cost savings to do that. So if you're a facility that's a smaller facility that's got, 200 by 200 type of scale, sticking with SDI, it's a lot more cost savings, simply because of the cost of the gateways and everything else. The other element that's there, and it's a bit of a misnomer, it's up in the market. Well, this whole perception that, well, if I go to IP, I can use COTS elements, and those COTS things are going to be cheaper. Well, if I pull back that comment a little bit, if I look at what I need to utilize in a production environment, that long list of Cisco switch choices actually shrinks down to about 2 or 3. And they happen to be the Nexus switches at the top end of the costing. Okay? Not factoring in the next level of service level agreements and servicing that has to follow. Yeah, it may be cheaper, but long term you're going to be paying a little bit more. And that's the same applies to the risks and things like that. So a simple move to IP is not going to equate to an immediate cost savings. Okay? There are going to be some long-term savings. Smaller footprint, less cabling, that can be realized very quickly. A shift in the way you do your workflows, how you share resources, how you do maybe remote productions, there are going to be immediate cost savings there. But a simple replacement of the hardware from an SDI to an IP isn't going to be necessarily a significant cost savings. Okay. That's a simple reality. But 6 months, the price is gonna drop, the cost per port's gonna drop. We see 25K coming in now, it's fairly highly priced. 6 months from now, it'd probably be a factor, a lower factor. So again, the cost per bit's gonna drop. And yeah, we're gonna see a slowly lowering of cost, but you're not gonna have out-the-door immediate savings for some of the smaller size systems in this. The other big thing, which is a big concern, is the skill set. And this is where the industry really is starting to identify ways to help that transition. You know, when we've done a lot of our installs to date, it's become quite evident that our end users are becoming quite dependent on us from once we do the initial deployment and things like that to constantly help them educate. So certain or events like these, like IP seminars, SMPTE's been a lot of seminars. We see a motivation behind the AIMS organization to do educational elements as well, because we realize that we need to narrow that knowledge gap. Okay, our broadcast engineers need to understand a little bit more about IP. Our IP individuals need to individuals need to know a little bit about video. Okay, and in the case of the broadcast engineers, that pool is shrinking before we even made that transition to IP. Okay, so this is one of those things where yes, the skill set is a major challenge right now. There are elements that are happening within the industry that are going to hopefully help us bridge that gap. Okay. So